All right, first we're going to welcome our newest honorary member, Anita Marina. She is here. Thank you for coming. And if you can introduce yourself. And also I wanted to thank Cheryl Lee Ogwin for nominating Anita and getting us more acquainted with their nonprofit Parallax. We also welcome Sarah and William Traver, the owners of Traver Gallery, who have been long supporters of craft, and many of our artists in the organization have exhibited at Traver Gallery. I really am excited. I think they're going to bring in, an expertise and an eye and a knowledge of the Seattle art culture and scene. They were not able to join us tonight, but I'm sure they're going to be an asset to NWDC moving forward. Now moving on to new members. So we're doing this alphabetically by last name. So Laura, you're up. Laura, can we hear you?
Yes. Can you hear
All
me?
right. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. I'm Laura Brodax. I work in ceramics and photography, often combining the two as well as exploring each medium on its own. I'm a graduate of the UW School of Art with a BFA in ceramics, where I studied in the mid-70s with Bob Sperry, Howard Kotler, and Patty Warashina. Since then, I've maintained a working ceramic studio, starting with custom residential tile and gradually moving into public art. To date, I've completed about 15 large-scale tile mural installations, mostly around the Puget Sound area. I worked for decades in a studio in Fremont, and 8 years ago, I opened Modern Glaze near my home in Shoreline, which is both a working ceramic studio and a storefront gallery. This is Low Tide, a tile mural at the base of an urban apartment building. It features a 7-color hand screen printed tile depicting the nearby water's edge. Next slide. Public street side mural, created for the Wajimaya family at the base of the former Publix Hotel. The imagery references the building's history through registry signatures and Ekebana-inspired floral forms, acknowledging Seattle's Japantown. Next. This 77 square foot triptych was commissioned by the city of Redmond. It combines binary code raining from the sky like a language with circuit board pathways rising from the ground, a visual metaphor for the technology that surrounds us. Inspired by in response to our current political landscape, I've begun creating commentary wares contrasting floral imagery with pointed statements. There was one slide missing. Inspired by my love of vintage tableware and Americana, these Seattle icon plates use underglaze image transfers on rice paper. Thank you for including me in Northwest Designer Craftsman.
Hello. My name is Colette Collins. I call myself more of a constructionist than I do an artist or craftsman. But I have been crafting all sorts of things over the years. Uh, I work with wood, steel, aluminum, leather, different types of leather, rubber, fabric. And I can go to a whole other bunch of things. But this first piece that we're showing right here is a table that it's really my style is very bohemian and mid-century modern with the Asian flair to it. So this table was crafted for a client. And then the what sets upon the table are what they are what are called cedar. It's a cedar. It's like a root, and it is covered with leather and encaustic wax. Next slide, please. Here's a piece that I did. This is also, I try to incorporate these different things. This table is has steel legs, and the top is parchment leather. And then also the top is a little, it's part of a altar. And it's just basically a shelf with the made and covered the shelf with leather, with parchment leather. And then the box on the right is actually a hidden door for a hiding station for whatever you want to put in there. Next slide, please. This is this is just one of my pieces. It's wood, leather, and caustic. I've thought about actually making lamps out of it, but this is what I've come up with this. And next slide, please. This is all woven leather. It's a panel that I made for an actually piece of furniture, and I always make extra to have on board. So this is a piece that can be hung. These are just different panels that I make with veneer and do wall treatments with. And this is all rosewood.
Hello. Hi, my name is Anthony Gaudino. I'm a studio potter for the last 25 years. I worked 20 of those years at Tacoma Community College as a studio lab tech, and 5 years as a continuing education instructor there for ceramics. In the last 5 years, I built a home studio and a large wood burning kiln. The piece on the screen is a wood-fired cylinder, and I think the easiest way to describe wood-fired pottery might be that I'm melting trees onto clay. Yeah. So there's no applied glaze on the piece. I can anticipate kind of the outcome potentially, but I don't exactly know how anything's going to turn out in the end result. And so all of the glassy, drippy kind of accumulations on that are all just melted ash from the atmosphere in the kiln. Next slide. So this is a small kind of squished wheel thrown and altered piece that has a wild collected clay on it, a slip on the outside, and then a small amount of rock and ash glaze that is locally collected as well on the top of it. So it's kind of like a small kind of flower vase type thing. Next slide. This is I call a shipwreck gourd because it kind of reminds me of maybe the coastal region of the Pacific Northwest, or kind of something you might find at the bottom of a shipwreck or something like that. It's probably about 20 inches tall. It's a gourd form. Again, it was just placed on seashells on its side, and wood was actively stoked on top of it during the course of the firing. So most of the firing, it was actually buried in embers. There's again a wild slip or a clay that I collect locally on the outside of it. Next slide. And this is another similar gourd shaped form, just a different perspective of it, kind of the side angle of it. Yeah, kind of the same thing, but with a different clay slip on it and positioned in a different place in the kiln. Next slide. And then this is one more large, what I would call a subo, which is kind of just Japanese for jar. A lot of my work is heavily influenced by Japanese and Asian ceramics. I've traveled extensively and demonstrated and shown in Japan, China, and Korea. And so it's kind of all of that influenced from that. And again, that's all just natural effects from the firing in the kiln. No applied glaze. And that's it.
All right. Cynthia is a multimedia artist involved in the 2D world of painting and also mediums of printmaking in major forms of encaustic and collage, and uses more 3D ventures in ceramic, papier-mâché, cardboard, wood, found object sculptures, and mosaics. as well as various fiber arts such as multi-material basket making, freeform needlepoint, paper and fiber weaving, and in the past year, she's concentrated on etching and linoleum plate printing, predominantly on ceramic sculptures, such as what you're seeing here. The work is entirely intuitive, with inspiration taken from any passing thought or observation. But in clay, I feel most grounded in my childhood delights of making mud pies by the backyard water fountain at my grandparents' Southern California citrus ranch, and drip castles and miniature shell, driftwood, and seaweed fantasy worlds on the shores of the Santa Monica Beach. And Diane. Do we have Diane Katz here tonight? All right, she says that after 40 years of designing activewear and ski wear internationally, she returned to satisfy her creative roots by hand making and hand dyeing silk, cotton, and other natural fibers into one-of-a-kind garments. Since the early 90s, she's been dyeing, designing, and hand making apparel and accessories that are classic, unique, stylish, and travel well. Over 30 years, she's still making eye-catching, innovative, and artistic clothing that's wearable with comfort and movement in mind. She prides herself on her workmanship, her color, sense of design, and experimentation with textile fit and construction.
Hey guys, my name's James Nelson. I'm a furniture designer and artist in Woodinville, Washington, but I also teach furniture and wood at Pratt Fine Arts in Seattle. I'm a trustee for the Furniture Society and a member of this organization. So this is my liquor cabinet here. It's made of granadillo and ash. This was one of my more recent projects, and this started off a entire series of work in the same medium. But this was a great project for me. I really loved doing it. So there it is with the doors closed. It stands about 6 feet tall and it's very monumental. A lot of my work takes inspiration from architecture as well as nature, and that can often be seen in my work. Next, please. This is a wall hung vanity. This is the second iteration. It's made out of Japanese oak and holly. It's meant to symbolize our daily rhythms and how that relates to the movements of the sun and the moon. Um, I have a full write-up of this on my website, but that's pretty interesting. But the arches here relate to the path that the sun travels through the sky, and on the underside, I'd inlaid in the time on the clock of the time of sunrise and sunset when I both started and finished the project. This was a fun one to make. There's another view that's front facing. The mirror didn't photograph well, but that's a mirror, that black um, circle there. Next, please. So this is the second piece in that first collection. This is an occasional table meant to pair with that liquor cabinet. And then from there, I've designed some chairs and lighting, all in the same series, all with the ash and granadillo, um, which I'm really proud of. And these are going to be on view at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art starting next month. So go see that.
Her tapestries are woven with hand-spun wool, weft on the cotton warp, and reflect her admiration for the land and waterscapes of the Pacific Northwest. In her weaving, she takes advantage of the tactile properties of natural fiber and its unique richness of color and texture. Having chosen to work within the technical limitations of flat tapestry, her goal is to create pieces that are both painterly and textile-like. She's drawn to the long history and cultural traditions of weaving and aimed to explore and sustain and share these traditions by combining centuries-old techniques with modern imagery.
I'm Candace Pratt from Portland. I have always loved making, and after 25 years in corporate marketing, I decided to return to making as a career. For more than 2 decades, I've owned a small business in architectural glass, while at the same time, I've been enjoying tapestry weaving on Navajo style looms. Next. A few years ago, following a Pilchuck residency, I decided to focus on creating my own work that speaks to social justice issues and emphasizing global unity. And for the first time, I combined my love of glass and fiber, and I chose vessels and baskets as that symbol. So during these few years, I've developed 3 techniques. Next, please. So during these few years, I've developed 3 techniques. The first involves water jet cutting of the glass base and spokes prior to a slump fire. And then I use a variety of fibers as the weft. Next, please. The second technique I call dovetail construction, where the glass base and the spokes are cut separately. And this allows me to achieve a more traditional basket shape. Next. The most recent technique is an adaptation of basket coiling, where instead of instead of grass or pine needles, I use glass thread, and I join them in layers using wax linen thread. So I just wanted to thank everyone. I am delighted to be a part of this dynamic group, and I look forward to meeting each of you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Candace. All right, Karen Russo.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be part of this group, and I look forward to meeting all you wonderful creatives over time. So this first image, Jewel in the Lotus, and with all the images you will see, I work in stoneware. I work solid. It is hollowed out, and my work is a confluence of the feminine and nature. So I'm gonna probably read a little bit here. I'm a figurative sculptor. I've been working for the last 15 years, working with the figure. I worked originally more realistically, and now they've become a bit more abstract. While I've worked in many mediums, I've chosen clay as my primary medium for its malleability, capacity for transformation, and of course, the connection to the earth. While I work, I don't work from sketches or models. It is very fluid, transcendent, meditative. It's it's a very meditative experience. I let the sculpture evolve from a mass of clay, and I will add to it, take away from it until the form actually settles into a shape that resonates with me. Next. This is Waves of Compassion. Again, it begins as a solid form. I never know what it's going to be, and this one was the ocean. Currently, she is in the Mayor's Art Show in Eugene, actually did receive the Mayor's Art Award for this piece. And once the show is over, it's I think February 22nd, the sculpture will move on to the Eugene City Hall Art Gallery. Next. This is Earth's Embrace. And this piece was just straight into the 43rd annual Art About Agriculture touring exhibit. They put on pretty wonderful shows that in this case will travel to 4 locations throughout Oregon from mid-March to the end of November. Next. This is Calm Within a Storm. So this winter and spring is a very busy time. I've got several shows coming up. So this one and 9 other sculptures will be at the Hoffman Art Gallery. It is a coastal themed show with 2 other artists. Next. So my art communicates visual stories, and it's through carving and painting. It's an observation and interaction with an ever-changing environment and a confluence of the feminine and nature. The figure emerges from or becomes one with her own landscape. The resulting sculptures depict women that seem to originate from diverse geographical origins, but all of which explore the tensions of the feminine experience. So I work with strength, contemplation, instability, equilibrium, love, grief. And then through these maternal archetypes, so evocative of the precious earth from which they're formed, I'm always hoping to express optimism for the human spirit in this beautiful and also turbulent world.
Yes, thank you. So hi, I'm Elise Wood. I'm here in my West Seattle studio. I'm very happy to be talking with everyone. I've been weaving now for about 10 years and working as a visual artist for much longer. I learned to weave as part of my MFA program in Norway, where I lived for about 5 years. My work really focuses on the feminist legacy of craft. Skies, waterways, portals, and ribbons are all images that I incorporate into my woven pieces. I return to them again and again to conjure thoughts of timelessness and interconnection. I often reference the golden chain of knowledge each weaver adds to the craft tradition through their determination and experimentation. So right now I have work up on exhibit at Soil Artist Run Gallery in Seattle, at the Postmark Center in Auburn, at Seattle Restored in Northgate, and then next week I'm installing a show at Eastern Washington University. So this first piece, Droplet, will be one of those pieces on show on campus in Cheney. So this is hand woven on a 4-shaft loom. It's actually oriented 90 degrees from how it was woven. This piece incorporates vintage threads, hand dyeing, partial ikat, really special like golden thread that I picked up from somewhere. Okay, so say the next one. This piece, Lapidity, was just woven a couple months ago at the Peters Valley School of Craft, where I was on residence for 2 weeks. This work is on view now at Soil. This piece incorporates a hand-dyed warp inlay and a special twill, specially designed to create both surface and image embedded in a single cloth. We can say next. Golden Line. This is a continuous tapestry that was woven as one 65-foot length. It's a hand-dyed warp of about 100 threads that equals about 10 inches wide. And as it goes upwards, it branches off and splits into these different dyed and kumihi-mode tails. I often work sculpturally as well as for wall-based work. It's one of those examples. Say next. And then I've also been experimenting with working much smaller. So this piece of the shadow is about 10 inches tall, and this was done using the Theo Mormon technique. This piece and all the other work you've seen is all made slowly, thread by thread, using all inherited or secondhand fibers. Sometimes I dye them. In cases such as this, the base cloth is like a 1950s party thread with each little blue section hand bobbined and enmeshed into the fabric. So a very fun way of working very slowly. So this is a recent solo exhibition I had at Gallery for Culture down in Seattle. And this is one exhibition where every technique I know how to use was exhibited. So I've got hand weaving, tapestry, industrial jacquard, hand woven, digital jacquard, loom weaving, lots of different things all in one space. Thank you so much.
Paige says, in my studio, I create self-made classroom where science and culture intersect through clay, exploring human anatomy and ceramics, allows me to study the intricate mechanics of the body while honoring the vessel we each inhabit. Clay becomes both subject and teacher, its responsiveness echoing the complexity of flesh and bone. This process deepens my understanding of the human form, not just as a biological structure, but as a cultural and emotional artifact. Through sculpting, I pay tribute to the body as a unique living machine, one we all share, yet experience in profoundly individual ways. All right, so that was our newest cohort of members. Thank you so much for joining us. I see a lot of overlap with current members. I kind of want to like play matchmaker and set up the new members with some of our tried and true ones. But we're going to move on to our current members. And first up, we have Carissa Brock.
Hi, I'm Carissa. I live in outside of Portland, Oregon, and I've been working with bamboo for 26 years and glass for a lot longer. I grew up in a house with a glass artist. One of the series that I've been working on lately, I call cloud watching, and it's where I split bamboo into long strips and run it through two different traditional planing tools before heat bending it and then sewing it into these forms. So this is a wall piece from the cloud watching series next. This is another one. And what I'm doing is I'm creating these sort of spiral forms and then linking all of the spiral forms together. So this one is 6 different spirals linked together. Next. And this is the largest one to date that I've done. It is about 7 feet tall and has, I think, 16 spirals in it. And they all are continuously linked with one line, and I'm hoping to eventually have a show with them where they're all casting shadows onto the wall because they all make these really great shadows. Next. The other thing I've been doing as of late is working on commissions. This is a 9-foot tall bamboo and glass light sculpture that it's about 28 inches wide and spirals down. And then when I went to go photograph it, the thing that I found really cool was that it created this shadow like a nautilus on the floor. Next. And the last thing that I think I'm showing is a commission that I just finished for a hotel on the East Coast. So this is a close-up. I'll just say that it was 108 inches long by 54 inches wide, and it's all of these sort of waves like you see in the background here, but all overlapping. Thank you.
Thanks, Carissa. And Lois Harbaugh, welcome. You're up.
Hi. So I've been referencing this century's digital world on my traditional vessels. So on the left, you see a teacup with a wraparound never-ending password. And on the right, you see a gaiwan with a fingerprint icon. And the title of this piece is Password. It was shown at Manifest Gallery in Cincinnati in a show titled Textuality, a show about artists using letter forms in their work. Next. May's vase uses digital imagery again, but now I've added in meditation imagery because I've started an energy meditation practice. So you see the walking meditation maze in the center there, as well as a scrap of QR code, the @ symbol and the fingerprint icon. There are also zeros at the bottom of the vessel, a nod to nothingness. And I would like to do a whole show looking at objects that reference how humans explore consciousness, whatever that is. Digital meditation. Next. Now we've left my wheelhouse of ceramics and we're in the bucket list territory. I started this series of 9-foot silk organza panels called reality veils. Transparent veils with phrases on them that we look through, but we aren't aware of thinking. The first one I made had words in single lines of silk thread, and it was only barely visible, which I was pleased with, but I just couldn't photograph it. So this is the second reality veil, and here I've bumped up the lettering to block letters, and I'm still experimenting with what to do with it. I like it when it's on the floor and it's got folds, and I don't know if you can make it out on this. On my screen, it's kind of smallish, but it says nothing doing. Next. Here it is, suspended. It's at the end of my studio. This was the only place I could get a photograph of the whole thing. And this phrase, nothing doing, is something that I just love because it's perfect in its ambiguity. I mean, normally you would think nothing doing would mean I'm not participating, or what are you doing? Oh, nothing. But actually in the energy meditation practice that I have now, the meditation zone is referred to as the nothing. And when you put an intention in that zone, it's asking for fulfillment in surprising and unexpected ways. So, yeah. So next. Here's a detail in a different context. One of the things that's kind of fun is whether you can read the veil or not depends on the context. And by the way, the lovely red art piece in the background is by my friend Jan Kautsky, paper piece of hers that I own. This piece I have entered in a show called Ex Nihilo, a show about negative space and nothing.
Yeah, my name is Bella Kim, and yes, I mainly work with recycled materials, such as fabric scraps and plastic packaging. My work is inspired by jogakbo, traditional Korean patchwork, and its resourcefulness and creativity. From this inspiration, my work evolved beyond flat textiles into three-dimensional works. This work is titled Nebula, and it was exhibited at the Cheongju International Craft Biennale in Korea last year. The overall size of the installation is 40 by 40 by 48 inches. In this piece, I imagined the universe like stars connected by something invisible. I wanted to share the idea that we are all connected and to express the mystery of a nebula where birth and death exist together. Next one. This close-up, I cut and folded the packaging into strips and connected them with sewing stitches, transforming discarded materials into layered forms. Next one. In this image, the shadows change with the light. Unexpected shadow effects appear, adding another joyful layer to the work. Next one. Mindful whispers came from my long interest in forests and leaves. At the beginning stage of the process, the leaves were too dense. So I cut out the center of each leaf to make the forest breathe. And I felt as if the forest whispered to me, which led to the title Mindful Whispers. Next. Through this work, I wanted to share a moment of listening to nature, to materials, and to ourselves. Thank you.
Is Ellen here?
I'm here, yes.
Yay. Okay, right, here we go.
So I'm Ellen Noble. I live on Whidbey Island, which is just outside of Seattle and Langley. And the studio is in East Freetown. No, is in Freeland, sorry. The work I'm going to show you tonight is work that I did last fall or end of summer, early fall, at a residency in Berkeley, California at the World Shibori Network Foundation. I was there teaching some natural dye classes, and then I also had an opportunity to do work that had to include indigo in an exhibition in New York City last fall. So I did these three pieces. One of them went, which is this one, Nothing Happens Twice. It's about 80 inches long and I think about 30 something inches wide. And they are hand painted natural dyes with indigo. Next. That's on Ramie fabric. This is a detail of, you can see that there's brush strokes as I was brushing the dyes literally onto the cloth, hand applying them and then steaming it. The intensity of the indigo moving from light to dark is from dipping it in an indigo vat, I believe 16 times, different lengths of time and for different at different levels to be able to give you this nice blue gradation. Next. This one is Nothing Happens Twice 2. Also, this one was made on old French linen. It's a little bit narrower. It's also the same height. I think it's 25 inches wide. Next. One of the things I've wanted to do with this is start to explore the idea of color harmonies with the natural dyes and be able to build a larger palette of a palette that had either brightness and boldness or maybe more subdued tones to it. So that's something that I'm going to be exploring more in the future. These are the three pieces, though, that I made during that residency last fall for a month. Next, please. And here I am actually applying the dye to the cloth. And I'm using something from the Japanese dollar store called a tawasi, which is a very hard brush. And that is what gave me that lovely edge as I was actually brushing the cloth. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Lynn Majunkin.
I am primarily a glass worker, and I work mostly alone, but I also sometimes work with a metal sculptor. And this is a project that we did together. We really like to use recycled materials, and the spiral shapes that you see here are what we call the drop. What's left over, it's the negative space from spaces that we cut out for a 40-foot roundabout series in Bellingham last year. So we were taking a little break, doing something a little bit easy. And then we also found the coiled spring for the base, which evolved in the next couple of sculptures. Next, please. So here are the next two iterations. The first time I used clear glass. This time I used leftover glass from the roundabout project. On the left is colored, and we're still not happy with this base. We're using recycled materials, but we made the forms ourselves. And then finally, we came up with the shape on the right. Doesn't have the glass in it yet, but we were much happier with the rebar holder for the sphere that references Helios, the Greek god of the sun. Next. This is a piece that was purchased for the Young Park in Guaymas, the island just north of Anacortes. The metal body, and then I use a fusing method in my kiln for the wings and the body and the tail. Now, next. You got one more? Yeah, there we go. So there's a close-up. You can see this iridescent glass. You take scraps of glass and stack them in 2 layers to make them stick together, and then fire them in the kiln. So this is a stainless steel piece with the glass inserts. Right now we're working on a series for Children's Hospital, the Mary Bridges Hospital in Tacoma, a series of salmon that are put together in a similar manner to this. Thank you.
I'm going to read my artist statement, and you'll get the general idea of what it. And could you just advance these pictures whenever you think?
Sure.
Thanks. Okay. Yep, it's worrisome, all right. Though my nice little life hasn't changed much yet. But through the transparent walls of my tiny safe bubble, I can see the war planes out there, the rising water, the rubble, the threats. War doesn't bring peace. The oligarchs suggest cake, but of course there is no cake. I'm still constructing globes, islands, villages, figures, still using tin, maps, old rhinestone jewelry, but now the world is on fire, or soon to be underwater. In my studio, I bring war imagery over from the doom side and decorate it with doll eyes, typewriter parts, rusted chainsaw blades, rhinestones. I put frilly beaded dresses on guns. I send cakes and china teacups to the doom side, fill them with fabricated bombs, blood, flood, fire. I've always been too small to have any faith in my power to change anything. I can only tell stories about it. No way of expecting anything to change if you won't look at it.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, I know a little bit about this work. This is recent work from an installation, a solo show at the Jansen Art Center. Much of Denise's work uses found branches that are then bent and joined and adorned with these paper or cloth. These are linen and paper in this case. I know she has multiple exhibitions coming up, which we'll share. And that was our last slide. Thank you.